I love trophies, which is why I've decided to make a brand new account to play some games that I enjoy and discover some brand new ones. So join me as I start my trophy hunting journey with Untitled Goose Game, released in September 2019, made by House and published by Panic Inc. It has 25 trophies, including the Platinum. PSN profiles list the game as a 4 out of 10 difficulty, requiring 1 playthrough and taking 6 hours to complete. Kicking things off with the garden to-do list, I get to work by heading over to the garden and turning on the sprinkler here in order to get the groundskeeper's attention. While he's busy running off to turn off the sprinkler, I decide to grab the radio and get it moved over towards the picnic blanket, making progress on my task to set up the picnic. While the groundskeeper is busy trying to recover his radio from the picnic, this gives me a perfect chance to steal his keys from him and take him off with me to the garden, getting me the to-do list task of stealing the groundskeeper's keys and getting into the garden. This also gives me the chance to shut the door behind him, setting us up for our first trophy of the run. Once the groundskeeper returns to the garden, seeing he no longer has his keys, I will be awarded the trophy Nasty for locking the groundskeeper out of the garden. While the groundskeeper is still locked out of the garden, I take the time to set up for some additional trophies and to-do list tasks, including moving one of these cabbages towards the gate. I then hand the groundskeeper his keys back through the gate so he'll open it up, giving me the chance to begin moving some of the various items I've collected out of the garden. After a few brief moments of fighting with the groundskeeper, I finally get an opportunity to drag the rake into the lake for our next to-do list task. I then proceed to move the remaining items, including the radio, to the picnic blanket for the Have a Picnic to-do list task. This also gives me the perfect chance to move the cabbage the rest of the way towards the picnic blanket, giving us our second trophy of the run, the Yummy trophy for having a cabbage picnic. Heading back towards the garden, I then do some setup, getting the groundskeeper near the sprinkler, and turning it on, getting the groundskeeper wet for our next to-do list task. Next up, I make my way towards the back of the garden, where the gardener is setting up a no goose sign. With a well-timed honk, I'm able to get him to hit his own thumb with the hammer, which causes him to stumble backwards through the door, opening it up for me, and completing the next to-do list task. I then move the sign away to get the gardener to go hammer it into place again, once again making him hit his thumb, giving me the perfect chance to steal his hat and run off with it. After running off with his hat, the groundskeeper will go and put on his sun hat at the shed, which completes our final to-do list objective, granting us the trophy, the garden. Next up is the High Street section of the game. Making my way here, I bring a trowel with me from the groundskeeper and deliver it to the shop. Getting the groundskeeper's attention, I bring him with me, and once he spots his trowel, he will go and attempt to get it. While him and the shopkeeper are busy, I then go and honk at the boy, scaring him off towards this phone booth, which he will enter and lock himself inside, giving us our first task complete in the High Street location. I now make my way back towards the shop, where I'll see the shopkeeper and groundskeeper arguing, which will give us the to-do list task of making someone buy back their own stuff, as well as the devious trophy for making somebody outside of the High Street buy back their own stuff. I then grab one of these umbrellas and bring it with me towards the TV store, setting up for our next trophy and next to-do list task. Once I drag the umbrella inside the shop, I then quickly head over and flip this switch, changing the TVs to a live feed, and open the umbrella, giving us the unlucky trophy for opening an umbrella inside the shop, and another to-do list task. I then go and untie the boy's shoelaces and cause him to trip in the puddle to get the ghastly trophy. After the boy trips, I then steal his glasses, setting myself up for the next to-do list task of making the boy wear the wrong pair of glasses. After stealing a pair from the shop, I bring him over to the boy, giving them to him, which he'll put on, giving us our to-do list task. I then head back to the shop and grab onto the broom, causing it to break, giving us another to-do list task. I then begin placing vegetables and fruits on the shop scale, setting us up for our next trophy. After a mild interruption of the shopkeeper pushing me away, I'm finally able to sneak back into the shop area, grabbing the final tomato needed and placing it on the scale for the noisy trophy, making the scales go ding. I then make my way towards this no goose sign, stealing the piece of chalk and getting the shopkeeper to chase me into the garage. I then make my way out, closing the door behind me, trapping the shopkeeper inside for our second to last to-do list task in the high street. I then finish things out by going and collecting the last item I need for the go shopping task, giving us the high street trophy. And also giving me my first milestone reached on this new count. I then chase the boy over to the garage that I trapped the shopkeeper in earlier, and just like before, close the door shut behind him. Once he goes to the door, we'll get an additional trophy, Dreadful, for trapping the boy in the garage. Now moving on to the gardens area, the main gimmick of it being having this man's backyard and woman's backyard. I begin by stealing the man's pipe and bringing it with me towards the woman's yard, and then taking the pipe over to this bust, setting us up for a to-do list task. I also pull out this drawer, collapsing this, allowing me access to the man's yard. I then work on stealing the hat and the glasses from the man and bringing it over to the bust in the woman's yard for the to-do list task. While I'm at it, I work on stealing this bar of soap, setting up another to-do list task of doing the washing. While I'm busy with that, the woman does put on the glasses, giving us that to-do list task for helping the woman dress up the bust. I also bring the man this vase, which he'll go and throw over the fence, causing it to shatter, giving another to-do list task. Once the man goes to drink his tea, I head into the woman's yard, hitting the hammer, striking the bell, causing the man to spit out his tea for, once again, another to-do list task. While the man's drinking tea, I take the chance to steal one of his slippers, bringing it to the fountain with all the other clothing for the do the washing task. Quickly heading back to the woman's yard, I catch one of the socks being thrown for the Careful trophy, which requires you to catch an item being thrown over the fence. I then take the place of the goose statue in the woman's yard, which completes the get dressed up in a ribbon task. I then make my way back to the man's yard and move his rose bush back, before making my way back into the woman's yard and messing with her topiary bush, which she will go to trim, causing her to accidentally snip the rose clean off, giving us the make someone prune the rose to-do list task. Finally, for the gardens area, I go and steal one of the man's slippers while he's drinking tea, and then wait for him to go read his newspaper to steal his other slipper, completing the last task and giving us the back gardens trophy. Up next is the final area of the game, the pub, but right outside I find this empty box, which I work on dragging back towards the gardens, into the man's backyard, and after fighting with the game's physics system, I get in the box, honk to get the man's attention, which he'll come over and investigate. After he investigates the box, he'll pick it up and go carry it towards the fence to throw us into the woman's yard, giving us the Intrepid trophy for getting thrown over the fence. Returning now to the pub, I start by untying this man's shoelaces, causing him to bend over and attempt to retie his shoes, giving me the perfect chance to slip by, causing him to trip, and entering the pub for our first task. I then start to make my way down to these ladies, and you'll notice I'm wearing a ribbon from the back gardens. This is important for our upcoming trophy that we'll be getting next. After putting on a little performance for the women involving honking, bowing your head, and flapping your wings, the women will throw me this flower, completing not only a to-do task, but giving us the elegant trophy for performing while wearing a ribbon. I then spy that the man is about to play some darts, giving me the perfect opportunity for the next to-do list task. With a well-timed honk, he'll throw his dart, breaking the dartboard for an additional task. He'll then later go to play his harmonica. Removing the stool from him gives us another to-do list task, and stealing his woolen cap gives us the cheeky trophy. Next up, I head to the upper portion of the pub, grabbing a pint glass, and bringing it with me to the canal and dropping it in for another to-do list task. I then make my way back into the pub and go turn on this faucet, and then grab the toy boat for another to-do list task. I then take that toy boat with me to the canal again, pushing it under the bridge for an additional trophy, lovely, for pushing the boat under the bridge. Then I make my way back to the pub, setting this table here with a candlestick, a fork, a knife, a peppermill, and finally a plate for the to-do list task of setting the table. On my way back out, I pick up one of these tomatoes and set it outside of this door for our next and final to-do list task. After getting the man's attention and causing him to investigate these tomatoes, he'll make his way to go place the tomato back into this box, giving me the chance to shove this bucket off of the ledge onto his head. After a few moments of him trying to get the bucket off his head, he'll fall over, giving us our last to-do list task and the pub trophy. I also happen to hit my second trophy milestone for this account as I make my way through the back lot of the pub. And now that the man has opened this dumpster lid, it gives me the perfect opportunity to get over the fence. Heading over the fence, I open up the gate as I proceed to make my way along this path and through the water underneath this bridge into the model village. This village is comprised of all the areas we've already visited in the game, but after making my way through this area, seeing all these little miniatures of the various townspeople we've annoyed, we finally come across this tower at the very end. Once I've made my way up to the castle, I begin chipping away at the two walls, which exposes a handle that I can grab onto and begin pulling away the tower from the rest of the castle. After a few seconds of tugging at the castle tower, it finally begins to tip over. And once it has fully collapsed, I am able to grab the bell. At this point, I make my way back through all the previous areas of the game, which went smoothly until I reached the high street. Here I had to deal with a combo of the boy, the shopkeeper, and the groundskeeper, all attempting to steal the bell from me, which, as you can see, I definitely struggled quite a bit with. After scaring the boy into the phone booth, collecting the bell, and breaking the laws of physics as a goose does, I finally am able to start making my way out of the high street, ending with the groundskeeper giving chase all the way to the lake, before I finally am able to make my way back along the tutorial pathway at the start of the game. And finally making my way to this hole in the ground where I can drop the bell to receive the trophy, "Thank you for playing our video game," and getting the credits for the game. Now, at this point, all that we're left with is some cleanup, involving getting the 5 flowers. So I head back to the bar doing the performance with the ladies before delivering the flower to the wishing well basket. I then collect the rose from the back gardens, delivering it to the basket as well. Then heading to the high street and taking the flower from the shop before also bringing it to the basket. Making my way to the groundskeeper's garden, stealing the rose, taking it to the basket, and finally taking the flower from the model village, bringing it to the basket to receive the trophy "Beautiful" for collecting all 5 flowers. Next up, I make my way back to the high street, getting the soccer ball from the boy, and fighting once again with the game's physics of trying to move a soccer ball as a goose. Bringing it back up towards the gardens, pushing it into the man's yard, and through the man and woman's yard, getting it over to the soccer goal, pushing it in for the nimble trophy. I then make my way back to the gardens, stealing the sun hat from the groundskeeper, as well as the toothbrush and a pair of glasses from the high street location, bringing it all to the bust in the woman's backyard in the gardens, which once she finishes dressing it up, we will get the pretty trophy. This leaves us with just the speedrun trophies, requiring us to complete all the locations in the game within 6 minutes. I head to the pub, steal a pint glass and drop it in the canal, break the dartboard, make the performance, pull out the stool from the man, causing him to fall down, push the bucket onto the man's head, set the table, and finally, after battling with the barkeep, I get to steal the toy boat to complete the pub. Giving us the trophy, the pub, quickly, for completing the pub within 6 minutes. Next up, I head to the back gardens, starting off by stealing one of the man's slippers, ringing the bell causing him to spit out his tea, stealing his other slipper to make him go barefoot, giving him the vase causing him to throw it over the fence. I then position the rose bush and mess with the topiary, causing the woman to prune it, giving another task, and then dropping the final sock in the water for the do the washing. And thanks to earlier setup, the woman finishes dressing up the bust, before finally coming back over to where I am standing in place of her goose statue, which she'll put the ribbon on and give us the final task and the back gardens quickly trophy. Moving on now, I head back to the high street. With a trowel in mouth, I scare the boy into the phone booth, giving us our first task. I then enter the TV shop, flipping the switch to get on TV. Then positioning the trowel in the shop, I get the groundskeeper's attention, knock the boy over, stealing his glasses, and giving him a pair of glasses from the shop, making someone buy back their own stuff, and making the boy wear the wrong glasses at the same time. I then break the shopkeeper's broom. I then collect all the items needed for the do the shopping task. And then I finally lure the woman to the garage before closing it behind her, giving us our last to-do list task in the area of trapping the woman in the garage, giving us the High Street Quickly trophy. This now leaves us with just the garden left. Starting off, I get into the garden for our first task. I then make the man hit his thumb with the hammer, giving us our second task, and quickly steal his hat and run off with it, causing him to put on his sun hat for an additional task. I then spy an opportunity where I can sneak up and steal the groundskeeper's keys for an additional to-do list task. I then turn on the sprinklers when he's nearby to get the groundskeeper wet, and take the radio from the garden, moving it down to the picnic blanket for the second to last task in the game. Once placing it at the picnic blanket, I then head back to the garden and grab the groundskeeper's rake and begin dragging it to the lake for the last to-do list task in the game. And as soon as I get it into the lake, I'm awarded the Garden Quickly trophy and the secret prize Platinum trophy. This also caused me to hit a new trophy milestone. Untitled Goose Game is a quick and fun Platinum experience in my opinion. According to PSN profiles, it took me 1 hour and 54 minutes to get the Platinum trophy. I would give it a 2 out of 10 difficulty rating due to the speedrun trophies requiring some practice to get the timing down. If there's any games you would like to see me Platinum, please let me know, and if you enjoyed the video and want to see more, please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.